When I looked at my phone, I saw that I had 13 missed calls, all from Martha, my mother-in-law. Not again, I said to myself. As I was thinking about this, my phone vibrated again. I replied, "Hello?" Martha sounded irate. "Pardon me, but this month's allowance was meant to be $3,000, right? It's past due." "Pardon me?" Trying not to panic, I answered. "I told you the allowance hasn't been deposited yet." Martha yelled, disregarding my predicament and focusing solely on her desires. I had had enough of her. She didn't consider what she said or did, even in this circumstance. I came to the realization that my only option was to use my last resort. After gathering my thoughts, I informed her, "I can no longer send an allowance because your son passed away. I'm Jennifer Smith, a 32-year-old housewife and busy employee at a large financial firm. My darling spouse, Mark, and I met through our common interests and were married almost 2 years ago. I was drawn to his warm smile and friendly disposition, and we soon became romantically involved. We did engage after a year of dating because we were certain we were meant to be. After living together without serious arguments, we made the decision to be married. Everything went smoothly until my mother-in-law, Martha, became an issue. Martha was Mark's lone relative after his father died a few years ago. When I first went to see her prior to our wedding, that's when the issue started. I said, "Nice to meet you," to her. However, Martha's disapproval was evident. "So, you're Mark's fiancée?" "Yes, I'm Jennifer Miller." "You're a pretty unremarkable girl. What does Mark see in you, I wonder?" It was unclear to me whether she was being serious or humorous. I was astonished to hear my loved one's mother say such things. Mark saw that I was upset and reprimanded her. "Hey, Mom, why are you speaking so harshly now? How are you able to speak such things about the one I selected?" "No, Mark, I'm just trying to pick a suitable woman for you." "Select? She was chosen by me. You have no authority to meddle." "Avoid saying it in such a chilly manner. Because I care about you, I'm simply being honest. If you were really thinking of me, you'd simply support us. Why can't you understand such a simple thing?" An argument unfolded between mother and son right before my eyes, making the air heavy. Since it was my first meeting with Martha, I wasn't in a position to intervene. Despite the lingering awkwardness, we eventually convey our intent to marry. As we were leaving, Martha called out to Mark, sounding somewhat disgruntled. "Mark, can I have a word?" "What is it, Mom?" "You're going to keep that promise after you get married, right?" "What promise?" "You know, about the allowance." "Oh, that? Yes, I'll be sure to take care of it. Can we not discuss it here, please?" "Well, I was just asking." The tension between my husband and his mother persisted, and discomfort hung thick in the air. In the car on the way home, I questioned Mark about the conversation he had with his mom as we were leaving. "Hey, Mark, about the talk you had with your mom." "Yeah, I should have told you about it, Jennifer. I heard something about an allowance." Mark sighed deeply and began to explain. "After my dad passed away, I've been sending money to my mom every month." "How much?" $2,000. "What? $2,000? I couldn't help but raise my voice in surprise. He sighed again and explained slowly. "Actually, my mom has a debt. She lost a lot of money at a casino a long time ago and is still paying it off. Her health isn't great these days, so she spends a lot of time at home. But she still needs money to live, right?" "But $2,000? Isn't that a bit too much? If I try to lower the amount, she keeps calling me over and over. No matter what, a mother is still a mother. I worry about her living alone." I saw Mark as a devoted son, which made sense. Since his father had passed away, Martha was his only family. Regardless of her character, she was still his beloved mother. At the time, I only saw my husband as a kind and considerate person. 2 months after our wedding, during my lunch break one day, I got a call on my smartphone. It was from Martha. When I answered, she began speaking cheerfully. "Jennifer, long time no see. Can we chat for a bit?" "Yes. What can I do for you? Well, I was hoping you could start sending me money. Excuse me? I was so taken aback that I couldn't find the words to respond. However, Martha seemed excited to continue the conversation. You mentioned before that you're working for a financial company, right? That means you have a good salary, doesn't it? Well, not exactly. What? You're lying to avoid giving me money. That's not what I mean. Then what is it? But Martha, you're still receiving financial support from Mark, aren't you? To my question, Martha responded defiantly. So what? Sternly, I expressed my feelings. Martha, getting $2,000 in monthly support is a big deal. And yet you're asking for more? Really, you think so? If you were to send me an additional $1,000, I could avoid burdening Mark. What do you mean by that? Well, I have Mark as a guarantor for my debts. If I fail to make payments, the debt collectors will go after him. Do you understand? But aren't you using part of Mark's $2,000 to pay back the debt? I'm short. I haven't told Mark, but I have a significant amount of debt. Her tone made it clear this was a fact. Even her husband was unaware of it. With plans of having children, our expenses were set to increase. On top of that, taking over Martha's debt wasn't an easy task. If her payments fell behind and the debt landed on Mark, the interest would likely accumulate significantly. By then, if I refused to send money, it would eventually become a problem for my husband. It seemed better for Martha to clear her debt now. Reluctantly, I agreed to her proposal. All right, I'll start sending you money. Really? Good God, Jennifer! I knew you would say that. The total, with Mark's contribution, will be $3,000. But this means you can pay off your debt, right? Yes, of course. I should be able to pay it all off in about a year. You promise, right? You'll make sure to pay off all your debts? I get it. So I'll be expecting it from this month onwards. Martha ended the call abruptly. The combination of physical exhaustion from work and this emotional burden only added to my stress. $1,000 a month, that's going to be rough, I thought. But it's also to prevent future problems for us. After all, if Martha can't make a living, it will upset Mark as well. That night, I promptly reported the matter to my husband. He told me I didn't have to do this, but I had already given my word to Martha. It was a decision made for our future well-being. Mark expressed his gratitude and understanding, wearing a sorry expression throughout. Time passed, and 2 years have gone by. The financial support we initially thought would last a year is still ongoing. Even now, we're sending $3,000 every month to Martha. Moreover, about 2 months ago, Mark fell ill and hasn't been able to work. He's on sick leave, receiving disability benefits, but it's much less than his previous salary. Last month, I managed to transfer $3,000 to Martha from my savings, but if this situation continues, it will be very challenging. Shockingly, Martha has not visited her sick son even once. Despite informing her about his hospitalization, she doesn't show up and only contacts me to ask, "You're still sending the money, right?" I was furious and decided to talk to Mark about it. "Mark, listen," I began. "Isn't it wrong that Martha is only concerned about money despite your condition? We need to seriously consider what to do moving forward." "Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing," Mark said. "I don't want to put more strain on you, Jennifer. This month, too, she's bombarding me with calls and messages asking if we've sent the money yet. Can you believe it? How could she focus solely on money when her son is unwell?" Mark expressed his frustration at his mother, his face showing signs of weariness. Then, with a sudden idea, Mark exclaimed, I've thought of it." He flashed a sly grin. "What is it, Mark?" I inquired. "Well, this is our last option. I've thought of something unconventional for my mom." Mark proposed a plan beyond my imagination. While it might be considered inappropriate, it appeared to be the only way to get Martha to comprehend. A few weeks later, Mark was discharged from the hospital. Since Martha hadn't responded to any of our messages, we didn't inform her about Mark's release. In the past 2 weeks, Martha had persistently demanded the money. while Mark and I were enjoying a cup of tea. A message popped up on my phone. Upon checking, I saw 13 missed calls from Martha. Again, as expected, my phone vibrated once more. It was another call from Martha. "Hello," I responded, activating the speaker microphone so that Mark could also listen. Martha immediately started shouting, "Listen, where's the $3,000 for this month?" "Excuse me?" I replied. "That's right. The money for this month hasn't been transferred yet." "Do you realize Mark is?" I began, but Martha cut me off, saying, "I don't care if he's in the hospital or whatever. It's none of my business. You're working at a good place, right? You must have plenty of savings. Hurry up and transfer it here." Martha was yelling angrily. Eventually, she said something unbelievable. "Listen, since you married Mark, if he can't pay, you have to pay me. Understand? If you refuse, I'll make you the guarantor. Got it?" At that moment, something inside me snapped. She was openly expressing her demands without considering our situation at all. I had reached my breaking point with her. I had no choice but to resort to the last option. I firmly declared into my smartphone, "Mark has passed away. I can't send you any more money." At these words, Martha blurted out a baffled, "What?" This was the final step that my husband suggested, to lie to Martha about Mark's death and observe her reaction. If she showed any sign of sadness, reflected on her behavior, and apologized, we would continue to support her financially. But if she didn't reflect and instead demanded money, we would sever ties completely. Deep down, I believed that even someone like Martha would deeply reflect on her actions if she were told that her own son had died. But in the very next moment, Martha burst into loud laughter. "Yay. What's so funny?" I asked. "Well, isn't it obvious? If Mark is dead, that means his inheritance will be distributed to me too." "Excuse me?" "I've been looking into it since I heard that Mark was sick. Listen here, 2/3 of Mark's assets are yours, but 1/3 is mine." I was at a loss for words. I never thought that when she first heard that her son was sick, she wouldn't look into treatment, but into how the inheritance would be divided. My anger surpassed words. I was simply dumbfounded. My husband seemed to feel the same way, and as our eyes met, he slowly nodded. This was the signal to continue with the plan. Once again, I spoke firmly to Martha. "Martha, did you hear what I said? Mark is dead." "I heard. What about it?" "Aren't you sad your own son passed away before you?" "You just make sure to send me some. I won't let you get away with not doing it." With a click, the phone line was cut off, and a dial tone echoed. I glanced at my husband and saw that he was shaking, his face red with anger. "Mark, are you okay?" I asked. As I asked, my husband looked into my eyes and said, "I'm cutting ties with her. She'll likely come here eventually, demanding money. Let's wait until then." "Okay, but are you really okay with this? Cutting off ties just like that?" I inquired. "Yeah, I have no regrets. After that call, she's no mother." My husband's eyes were filled with hatred, and I felt the same way. A person who only thinks about money over her own son's life is not family to me. A few days later, as we expected, Martha came to our house. For the time being, I decided to hide my husband in the next room and deal with Martha myself. Martha approached me with a face like a demon. "Hey, give me Mark's inheritance right now," she demanded. "Again with that? Anything else to say? He's already dead, isn't he? It's pointless to say anything now. You never even visited him. What are you saying? Are you really his mother? You're so annoying. Give me the inheritance right away. I don't mind getting a lawyer." Speaking more would be a waste of time. Just as I thought that, my husband emerged from the next room. Seeing him, Martha let out a startled gasp, as if she had seen a ghost. "Mark? Why, weren't you dead?" "Long time no see, Mom. Sorry, but the news about my death was a lie." "Lie? How could you be so disrespectful?" "I wanted to confirm your true nature, Mom. I was curious about how you'd handle the allowance if your son died. But you turned out to be a gold digger, just as I suspected. I got that perfectly? What? How dare you call your mother a gold digger? Silence. I'm cutting ties with a toxic parent like you. Martha's mouth was agape at my husband's angry shouts. She could not come to terms with the fact that her own son was severing ties with her. What does this mean, Mark? It means exactly what I said. I can't consider someone like you as my mother. No way. Then what about the allowance? Do you really think I'd care? You're on your own with the debts. We're moving. Wait, please. If you do that, what about my living expenses? With tears in her eyes, Martha reached out to my husband. He forcefully shook off her hand, looked at her coldly, and said, I don't care about your living expenses. You have been living off us without even a single apology. I truly understand your despicable nature now. Don't you show up in front of us again. No, wait, Mark. Are you going to abandon your mother? Ignoring her words, my husband seized Martha's arm and guided her to the front door. He tossed her shoes and bag outside and escorted her out of the house. Martha created a commotion outside for a while but eventually disappeared, possibly unable to withstand the scrutiny of the neighbors. Despite her multiple attempts to contact us, we ignored all of them. Martha's number was set to be automatically rejected, and we completed our move. Regarding the issue of co-signing for the debts, it became invalid since Martha had made Mark the co-signer without his consent, absolving him of responsibility. Without the allowance from us, Martha seems to be leading a challenging life. It's only natural, given that she had been using the allowance for gambling instead of settling her debts. She still faces a substantial debt burden and is pursued by debt collectors daily. Unable to indulge in gambling anymore, she appears to be working tirelessly from dawn to dusk. It's unlikely that she will be able to fully clear her debts in the foreseeable future. She will have to keep working until she is physically unable to do so. This is entirely a consequence of her own actions. As for us, we are enjoying fulfilling days in our new home. My husband's health has stabilized, and he has returned to work. After some time, we discovered a new life growing in my belly. We are expecting an additional member in our family next year. Moving forward, we aim to cherish happy moments as a family of 3.